Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of JLAMBCAST MMA Show. A lot to unpack from this weekend. UFC 261 with fans in the arena at the ViStar Veterans Memorial Arena in Jacksonville, Florida. We saw the rematch of Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal. Other title fights, we saw Rose Namajunas versus Weili Zhang Weili, and then Jessica Andrade versus Valentina Shevchenko. This card from the get-go, okay, from the very first fight of the night, which was Liang Na versus Ariane Carnelosi, and I'm probably butchering those names, but these girls, not a lot known about them. They came out and were just energized from the fans. This whole fight card from start to finish was a ton of energy. Having the fans back, maybe I've been spoiled. Maybe I've been spoiled by having, being able to watch these events from the UFC Apex or Fight Island, where you can hear the coaching and every punch and every kick landed just sounds a little bit more, loud through the TV. And I'm sure it's way different in person. But, it was just, you could hear the crowd noise from the very first fight. I've been to UFC shows, and I'm one of the nerds that'll sit in the stands from the very first fight. I don't show up during midway through the prelims or right at the beginning of the main card. I'm there. I want to see it all. So, I know how loud it can get from the first fight, and I know how loud it can get from the main event. This event, from the very first early prelim, if you don't have ESPN Plus, go rewatch it and just listen to the roar of the crowd from that very first fight. And it was that way all the way through. It was so entertaining. There was just entertaining fights, crazy things happening. And we'll jump into that when we kind of resume go over the results. But I couldn't have been more impressed with how it turned out. If I'm Dana White right now, I got to be feeling, you got to be feeling really good that fans are back in the arena, number one. But to have the very first fight card in the arena, back in for the UFC, as far as storylines go, as far as how the event turned out, there's so much to talk about from this pay-per-view. Before we jump into the results, I do want to go over and we do have a fight night. I guess the UFC will be back at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas this Saturday for Dominic Reyes versus Yuri Prochka. That's going to be an exciting card. You also got Cub Swanson on there. We'll talk about those fights more in depth towards the end of the podcast. But yeah, I want to jump into it. A lot of not only were there fans there, but there were a lot of star power, star athletes, star YouTubers. Yes, Jake Paul made an appearance. And if you heard it through your television, the F Jake Paul was very clear from those fans. You had Tom Brady there. You had, shout out, Texas A&M's own Mike Evans in the house with Tom Brady. You had Justin Gaethje there. Just star-studded attendance there. Colby Covington was there. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, this was a huge deal this weekend. Sad to see. It's sad that it was over. But UFC 262 is just right around the corner. Next month, Houston, Texas. Mark it down. Because we do get to see the return of Nate Diaz versus Leon Rocky Edwards. So a lot to look forward to. And you know I'm going to do a big show for that one. Very excited. Wish I could be there for the Houston pay-per-view, but unfortunately I wasn't quick enough on the draw to get them tickets, and they sold out quick. So, all right, let's jump in. Let's jump in to these results here. I'm going to pull up UFC's website here. No disrespect to anybody on the early prelims. Those were exciting fights. I really want to get to the main card. The prelims, you had submissions, 2 submissions and two decisions. I mean, but all in all, great fights. Not a lot of name value there. I know, anybody knows, or anybody who's a decent enough fan with MMA knows Alex Cowboy Oliveira and Randy Brown and Carl Robeson and Brendan Allen. Pat Sabatini. It had some decent names in the prelims, and I don't want to disrespect them, but the hugest stories happened on that main card. We'll start off with the very first fight of the main card. I was Anthony Lionheart Smith versus Jimmy Crute. Remember last week I did pick Lionheart to rebound, and rebound he did in a huge way. At the end of the first round, Anthony Smith, who has lethal kicks, by the way, hit Jimmy Crute just below the knee on the outside of his left leg and caused drop foot. And Jimmy Crute's, his leg was dead. He tried to step back on it. His ankle buckled, and he immediately took Anthony Smith down, and they pretty much finished out the round there. Jimmy Crute couldn't walk on his leg. They brought the doctor in. They tried to get him to walk on it. Yeah, he tried, and Jimmy Crute's a warrior. If they could have chopped his foot off in that cage and he said he wanted to continue, he would have. That's the type of warrior Jimmy Crute is. And credit Anthony Smith for just the perfect game plan. Both of these guys look good. I don't think it really didn't look like anybody had a gigantic advantage over the other. This was a very evenly matched fight, and credit to Lionheart for pulling it out and just placing the perfect leg kick on Jimmy Crute. I'll pull it back up here. You see, according to the UFC website here, he was a plus 22. So anybody that took my advice on that, you could have won a decent amount of money. Jimmy Crute was the favorite. Next up, Uriah Hall versus Chris Weidman ended with a round 1 KO TKO. Yes, if you haven't heard by now, Chris Weidman threw a leg kick and broke his lower leg, tibia, fibia, not quite sure which, but broke it in the same manner that Anderson Spider Silva did when trying to kick Chris Weidman's leg. This was in their rematch for the title. Chris Weidman famously knocked out the seemingly unstoppable Anderson Silva. And then in their rematch, Anderson Silva goes to throw a leg kick and almost identically breaks his leg in the exact same spot, and it's just horrible to see. Weidman, who I picked to win this fight, he was the slight betting favorite here, minus 125 versus the plus 100. I mean, that's pretty close to a toss-up there. But, boy, Weidman looked good on the scales. I don't think he's ever looked, better on the scales. Just looked completely chiseled, completely ripped, ready to fight. Just he came in with such intensity and looked so fit. And my heart breaks for the guy. My heart breaks for any of these athletes that jump in there and deal with an injury of that magnitude. It was so horrific. And they played it in slow-mo, and he kicked. It broke. He fell, pulled his leg back and tried to plant his foot, and it was done for. Luckily, referee jumped in, and huge credit to the referee for being in the right place at the right time. Uriah Hall showing such grace and class in that moment, knowing that there's a very traumatic injury happening, walked away. And I couldn't be more impressed with how humble Uriah Hall was in that moment, and just cared for Chris Weidman. I know Anderson Silva posted something on Instagram shouting out to Chris Weidman. Everybody's pulling for this guy. He is one of the nicest guys in and out of the octagon. He has a reputation of being just so accessible and just such a people person. So I wish him a speedy recovery, and prayers for his family and prayers for him. So I would love to see if Chris Weidman could run it back. I would like to see this fight again. I mean, it absolutely makes sense for both of the guys, but an injury like this, Chris Weidman is going to be on the shelf for the foreseeable future. I think it took Anderson Silva about a solid year to come back from his kick on Weidman, and Weidman is considerably older at this point compared to when Anderson Silva broke his leg. So the healing time might be exaggerated. We just have to wait and see. But all the best to Chris Weidman. Hope to see you back in the UFC. Hope to see you back in the octagon. After that happened, we jumped into the 3 title fights. The very first one on deck was Valentina Bullet Shevchenko versus Jessica Andrade. Valentina, unstoppable at flyweight. She was unstoppable at bantamweight until she ran into Amanda Nunes. They opened up the flyweight division, and Valentina is the queen of it and has been and will be for the foreseeable future, because I just don't think there is anybody there. Lauren Murphy, I think she stands a better chance than Jessica Andrade did? Lauren, no, I don't. Unless Lauren can show us something that we've never seen before from her. I just don't think she possesses the power and speed to match Shevchenko. I just don't know what's next. Jessica Andrade was an intriguing enough, moving up from strawweight, with dominant power, always moves forward, and Valentina managed that very, very well. And really out-wrestled Andrade, too. I think that's what I was most impressed with Valentina Shevchenko. I knew that she had takedowns. I knew that she had good clinch game. Her stand-up was just next level. But for her to do what she did to Andrade, out-muscled her, She looked like the stronger fighter out there. She was better in the clinch. She got the takedowns. She was the aggressor on the takedowns. She looked better in the stand-up. It was just a masterful performance from Shevchenko. So I don't know. I really don't know. Where do we go from here? We just don't know. We know that Amanda Nunes is dropping back down to bantamweight to defend her title. Who is she going against again? Juliana Pena. That's right. Juliana Pena. Sorry. Yeah, I don't see Pena bringing anything to the table that Nunes has not seen before. I do think Nunes wins that one because Nunes is the GOAT. Bar none. You can't. I don't think there's anybody in their right mind that would disagree that she is the GOAT. Valentina is not far behind. And yes, they fought twice. But with as dominant as Shevchenko has been since those fights, we have to see a third. We have to see a third because we've seen an evolution in Shevchenko's game that has frankly been unmatched in the women's division. She looks dominant in every facet of the game every time she goes out there. So yeah, the only thing that makes sense for me is after Nunes defeats Pena, we get this trilogy fight. You know, and I don't think there's ever been a trilogy fight where one side has lost two in a row and you get a third one. Not in the UFC. At least if you can name a time, put it in the comments. I'll be interesting to know that one. But I don't think that's ever been done. But here is where it makes the most sense versus any of those. All right. The next title fight was the women's strawweight fight against Zhang Weili, who won the title against Jessica Andrade before Jessica Andrade moved up to face Shevchenko. Zhang Weili versus Rose Namajunas. Thug Rose. This is the one I got the Weidman one wrong, but that was a freak accident. I got this one wrong, and I got it wrong in a big way. And Rose, I apologize. Rose came in and looked great. Was ready to take everything that Zhang Weili had. Rose Namajunas set up a beautiful left high kick, and it sent Weili down to the mat. Rose Namajunas was on top of her. Thug Rose laying down. It was 2 or 3 hammer fists, and referee stepped in, and that was all she wrote. You know, I really picked Zhang Weili, and I don't think this is the last we hear of her. She's going to stay at the top of the division. She's going to stay dominant. And I think Rose is going to stay dominant in this division as well. We're definitely going to see a number 2 out of this. Will it be right away? Probably not. Not when you get KO'd in the first round. Zhang Weili might have to face somebody else in the lead up to this, and we might get a rematch for the title for. I remember Rose whenever she was on the Ultimate Fighter, and the Ultimate Fighter finale. she fought on the finale. That might be the fight, the next, or her first title defense of her second reign. So Zhang Weili probably won't happen right away, but put your stamp on it. Like, I'm putting my stamp on it. It will. We will see a number 2 out of this one. And the only reason why I picked against Rose on this one, was the mental side of it. Rose is a very emotional and open person. And I think it showed. I mean, against Jessica Andrade, she looked amazing up until she got dumped on her head. But, the unsurety, I don't know if I want to be champ, that unsurety stuff right there, that's it's hard to pick a person in a championship fight when you know that about them. But I think she's overcome those demons, absolutely, and good for her. Good for her. She absolutely was out to prove that she was the best on Saturday night, and she did it with emphasis. Rose, you are the queen of the strawweight division. Absolutely. And that brought us to the main event. Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal did not get the victory. Did not last the entire fight. Kamaru Usman knocked out Jorge Masvidal cold. Straight cold. In the second round, about a minute and 2 seconds into that second round, Kamaru Usman just lined up the perfect straight right. And he had been throwing left hook straight right several times. This time, whenever he set up the knockout below, he almost he pawed at Jorge's right hand and pulled it towards him and brought Jorge Masvidal right into that straight right. And it was like an explosion of sweat that came out of George Masvidal's head, and it buckled him. The lights went completely out, and he was done. I don't think I have ever been more impressed with Kamaru Usman. He's been impressive, but this was next level. This was, king of the welterweight division. And I think he's that. The only person that's ever gave him a run for his money was Colby Covington, which that fight was 2-2 going into the 5th round, and Kamaru Usman broke Colby Covington's jaw. Kamaru Usman has sneaky good power. He doesn't show it that much. Most power punchers, that's the first thing that they lead with. But Kamaru has phenomenal wrestling, great footwork. Couldn't be more impressed. And Jorge Masvidal, sometimes you get caught. Jorge's absolutely still a great fighter. He's absolutely still one of the baddest men on the planet. Sometimes you get caught. And this happened in a big moment. We already know, we heard from the press conference with Dana White after this fight that Kamaru's next fight is absolutely going to be Colby Covington, which I don't mind that either. Nobody has taken the champ through deep waters like Colby Covington did. There's history there. There's bad blood there. It absolutely makes sense. And it's going to do big numbers. It's going to be an exciting fight. And hopefully we can get that towards, probably early, August, maybe. Hopefully we can get that in before the end of 2021, and I think we will. Kamaru Usman has been an active champion. I mean, we saw him, this is the third time in a calendar year, fourth time since December 2019 that we've seen Kamaru Usman defend his belt. So he is an active champion. So Jorge Masvidal, what does he do next? That one's interesting. I would say next month we have the co-main event of UFC 262, right? I think I already talked about it. We got Nate Diaz, and we've got Leon Edwards, and there's story there with both of them. With Nate Diaz, there was the BMF title. Them two running it back, wouldn't it pull huge numbers? Yeah, of course. Jorge Masvidal also has history with Leon Edwards. After Jorge Masvidal knocked out Darren Till, backstage, he had an altercation. That's where the 3-piece and a soda came. Leon Edwards was talking shit to Jorge, and while Jorge was doing an interview, and Jorge walked up to him and gave him the 3-piece and the soda. So, and they've never been able to resolve that since. And golly, that happened, 3 years ago now? It's been a while. So you could absolutely still sell that. So sure, the loser of that fight makes sense for Jorge Masvidal. I think it lines up perfectly. Unless, of course, Jorge wants to throw his name in the ring for Jake Paul. So yeah, 261. It was mind blowing. It tugged at your heartstrings. It gave you the action and adrenaline. And yes, hearing all of those fans was. It was a wonderful moment. It was a wonderful moment for 2021. And I hope that they can parlay the success from this UFC 261 and bring it to UFC 262 and even beyond. Let's go. I mean, as much as I was a fan of the UFC Apex and Fight Island, fans back, let's get back to normal. Aside from all the political bullshit, I'm not trying to get into that. Fans being back in the arena for the UFC brand, for me being a fan, it's just, this is the way to have it. Absolutely. So, love this pay-per-view. But we do have an event this weekend. We have another UFC fight night with former title challenger Dominic Reyes, two-time title challenger. He lost against John Jones, and then lost against current champion Jan Blachowicz. Excuse me. So let's pull this up here. And this is a very interesting fight. I like Dominic Reyes is he's a very good fighter. He's a light heavyweight that doesn't move like a light heavyweight. He's got length. He's got reach. He's got great footwork and really good kicks. But then you enter in, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Prochka. Yuri Prochka. I think that's how you pronounce it. If not, I'm sorry. But Prochka is an interesting guy too. I mean, he's longer than Dominic Reyes. I think Dominic Reyes has a 77-inch reach advantage, and Prochka, Yuri, I'm just going to call him Yuri. Yuri has an 80-inch reach advantage. Both of these guys move like a lighter weight fighter. Featherweights, lightweights, take your pick. Both of these guys have movements that are not of the light heavyweight division. And I think that's why I'm so intrigued by this matchup. Prochka, he has an interesting resume. He has a win over the current Bellator champ Vadim Nemkov. Of course, this was several years ago, but he's been on a tear ever since he's been in the UFC. He just went over another title challenger in Volkan Ozdemir, which he got stunned. He got stung. I don't think Yuri is invincible. He definitely got rocked by Ozdemir in that fight. But he ultimately landed the kill switch on Ozdemir and got the victory. So, I mean, this guy can crack, and he's susceptible to getting cracked, but Reyes is the same way. Reyes can crack. Reyes can throw some hands. Reyes can throw some feet. But we all saw what happened when Jan Blachowicz rearranged his face. So, this is a huge fight for the light heavyweight division. I mean, if Yuri can upset Reyes, then you're immediately talking about Yuri as one of the next in line for a title fight. See, also on this fight, Cub Swanson, fan favorite, the ageless wonder, versus Giga Chikadze. That one's going to be great. Ion Cutelaba versus Dustin Jacoby, light heavyweight back. That's going to be. I mean, there's a lot of punching power on this main card here. So we might see our fair share of finishes this Saturday. And it's at normal time. Main card starts at 9 p.m. ESPN Plus. Let's go look at this one's an intriguing matchup here. Cody Stamann versus Merab Davashvili. That one's very intriguing for the bantamweight division right there. Who, whichever one can win this fight immediately jumps into the top 10. Prelims. Randa Marcos. Randa Marcos might be one of the only fighters in the UFC that has a losing record. And I don't think that's going to last for very long. And I like Randa, but she's on the hot seat. She's definitely on the hot seat. And she's going to have her hands full with Luana Pinheiro. That's a fight to watch out for. Kai Kamaka versus TJ Brown is intriguing. Yeah. So a lot of good fights to look forward to this one. Very intriguing. The main event is absolutely the top one to watch because you're going to see very similar striking, very similar movement. I think Yuri is a little bit more flashy than Reyes. But I don't know who to pick on this one. It's a very evenly matched fight. And then the next week after that, we get Corey Sandhagen versus TJ Dillashaw. Saturday, May 8th. So, we got some fights the next couple weeks, folks. I think I said that the last couple weeks, but like even more the buildup, and especially off the heels of this past pay-per-view. Like, we're going to have people chomping at the bit to put on a show. So, well, I don't think I got anything else for you guys. Like I said, tune into this UFC Fight Night. Should be an interesting one. I'll be back next Monday. We'll preview the Sandhagen and Dillashaw fight. We'll recap what happened between Reyes and Yuri. And we'll see you next time, folks.